Zhu Gong thought he was just buying a game. Night Saga, a legendary VR fantasy where players live their wildest adventures. But the moment he put on the headset, everything changed. He didn't log into the game. He woke up inside it. Now he's no longer Zhu Gong. He's Sutra, the ninth prince of the demon realm, a weak, forgotten royal with stats so low, even basic monsters could crush him. Yet buried deep within his character lies a hidden power, the skill Conquest, a mysterious ability that lets him grow stronger by facing death itself. Trapped inside the world he once played for fun, Sutra fights to survive, absorbing the powers of enemies, mastering forgotten relics, and rewriting his own destiny. He tames beasts that once ruled the lands, forms his own night order, and discovers ancient weapons said to rival the gods themselves. Every choice he makes changes the storyline. Every victory brings him closer to the truth. Why was he brought here? And who is truly controlling the game? The player who once held a controller now holds the fate of a world. From gamer to demon prince, this is the story of Sutra, where every battle isn't just survival. It's a fight to rewrite destiny. Gong stood as the central figure of the story. He was frequently teased about his name, as it had a direct and obvious meaning. Despite the challenges he faces, he remains resolute in his quest to take control of his own story. That day, he made his way to the store with the intention of making a purchase. The latest edition of his beloved game, Night Saga. The story centers on a competition between humans and demons, where the participant must choose between two possible actions. The reader could select the human protagonist known as. The focus shifted to whether the demon would be encountered before anything else. Prince Zephyr set out on a journey, eager for the adventures that awaited him. As this marked the debut of the game in virtual reality, his confidence soared. When he was younger, he owned an imitation of this game, which led him to feel confident that he understood every aspect of it. Without delay, he stepped into his house. He plunges headfirst toward the earth. They found themselves transported inside the world of the game. The character was resolute about limiting their playtime to no more than 8 hours. Yet as soon as he steps inside, he feels a surge of surprise, realizing that he hasn't woken up in his bed like he normally does. He observes the strange character assigned to him. Just then, an ogre entered the room. The sudden shock made him aware of the intense realism of the game. The boy's confusion was evident as he halted abruptly upon spotting the ogre, surprised to discover that this NPC was capable of conversation, a feature never advertised in the game's promotions. The boy inquires about the ogre's name, prompting the creature to respond with, all the while feeling puzzled that his prince no longer remembers him. Exited the tent, giving Sutra a reminder that the others were gathered and expecting him, respectfully addressing him as Prince Sutra. The mystery of his identity becomes clear when he recalls that Sutra is actually the ninth prince from the demonic land. However, a sense of confusion lingers, because the game never gave him the option to select his character. He decides to assess his circumstances by bringing up his status window. He noticed that the statistics were surprisingly low. Despite holding the title of prince, he ranked beneath even the most common NPCs. He reviews his abilities, discovering that they include both conquest and the power to alter the protagonist's settings. He possesses a general understanding of the second skill. Before he has a chance to think further, appears and summons him to come outside. He notices several ogres standing in orderly rows. When the boy caught sight of the soldiers, he couldn't help but question whether they were about to march into battle. Dismissed his concerns with a sneer, urging him to stop imagining things and move along. They were preparing to face the formidable Scarlet Lightning tribe in battle. He feels shocked as he realizes he will be thrown directly into combat with no prior instruction. He discovers that his role is to aid the 7th prince and the 8th princess, as they face the revolt led by the Scarlet Lightning ogre tribes. He expressed his anxiety about heading into battle with just 10 warriors, his words revealing his unease. Appeared puzzled by this reaction, especially since only the day before. Seemed aware that their outing was just a routine patrol. Making an effort to calm things down. Accessed his minimap. She notices a quicker path. Grew anxious as he thought about the lengthy journey that lay ahead of them. Urged to go with him, confident that he was familiar with a faster way. They walked into the forest together, and the distance between them narrowed. A steep cliff stood before the young boy, cutting off his path. Utterly drained of energy, his eyes widened in disbelief as a game unexpectedly appeared before him. There was an increasing amount of encouragement as well. He was amazed at how his prince managed to discover a route like that. Upon noticing the weariness etched on his face, concern began to grow within him. In the following instant, everything changed. A radiant golden glow surrounds him. A message pops up on his screen, informing him that he has reached a new level. He is surprised to discover that simply by moving, he has gained a level. He had also received improved stats, with 2 points automatically assigned and another 2 points available for him to distribute as he wished. The soldiers surrounding him press him to advance. He gathers his courage, prepared to confront whatever lies beyond the gate, drawing strength from the knowledge that he has companions by his side. He felt assured in his ability to adjust the protagonist's circumstances, believing this talent acted as a safeguard within the story. Beyond the gate, a cavern reveals itself to them. Quickly realizes the object's craftsmanship is unmistakably. Stories have long circulated that the dwarves left the demon-infested lands many years back, since not a single soul has spotted one in recent memory. Out of nowhere, a dazzling treasure catches their eyes, shining brightly ahead. Their expressions lit up with excitement as they spotted the treasure. Believing that dwarves must have abandoned it, the ogres wasted no time and began greedily grabbing everything they could find. Sutra glanced about the area, his eyes scanning for an option that would fit his own needs. Although the majority of the items surpass his current abilities, a few do not match the limits of his magical power, while others are just too heavy for him to lift. Ultimately, he comes to the conclusion that nothing available at this stage would be helpful, leading him to place all the items into his inventory for later use. He looks to see if he possesses one, and discovers that he does. He decided to try it out by placing a weapon within its confines. He simply has to place his hand on an object and focus on putting it away, and it disappears in an instant. Without warning, he notices the Scarlet Lightning tribe making their way toward him across the land. He holds out his map, cautioning the group about what lies ahead. In the following instant, events shifted. Without warning, the wall bursts apart. The Scarlet Lightning gang suddenly stormed into the room, with their leader, swaggering at the front and bragging that they had finally tracked down their foes. The clash unfolded between two forces, both bearing the color green. There was also a red ogre. The story starts. The boy remains in place. He felt uncertain about his next move, but eventually resolved to defeat a few foes to earn some experience points. He launched an assault on one of the ogres, only to find that its body was incredibly resilient. His sword snapped in two. The red ogre shifts its attention toward him, preparing to confront him directly. As he runs, his eyes remain fixed ahead. Trips clumsily when a rock catches their foot. The impact was sudden and forceful. His health dwindles until only 1 point remains. At the very moment, the red ogre prepared to deliver the final blow. The ogre, acting quickly, storms into the scene and rescues his friend. He felt a strong sense of urgency, compelling him to leave the place without delay. Completely unsettled, a deep sense of shock ran through them. He realizes he has finished playing the game for the day. He accessed the main menu, yet the initial detail that caught his attention. He no longer possessed any abilities. She decided to investigate more closely. He stares at the screen in confusion, realizing that there isn't any way to log out. The only explanation he can come up with fills him with fear. He has become trapped within the game. Just then, moved ahead and delivered a surge of magical energy shot directly toward him. The boy desperately hoped to survive and escape from this place. The use of magic leaves him utterly exhausted. Sleep began to weigh down his eyelids. As his eyelids drift shut at last, his health points fell all the way to 0. He slowly blinks awake, realizing he is surrounded by an endless, empty expanse. For a brief instant, he loses his composure, believing that he could have lost his life. A sudden flash of brilliant light illuminated the scene. Inside, a woman awaits and tells him that he was destined to arrive at this place. She urges him to take control, subjugate those around him, and ultimately seize power. He remains confused, unable to grasp what is happening. He finds himself suddenly engulfed by a brilliant flash. In the blink of an eye, he found himself awake once more, this time surrounded by the chaos of the battlefield. At the same time, a violent battle erupted between the two ogre clans. Begins to form an opinion about the green ogres, her thoughts trailing off before she can finish. They believed it was foolish to arrive with so few on their side. He commanded his soldiers to eliminate every last one of them. He then becomes aware of their presence. A boy stood in place, while a warm, golden glow surrounded him completely. He receives a message letting him know that he now possesses the power of telekinesis. He had never acquired that particular ability. However, digging deeper, he comes to understand that telekinesis falls under the abilities granted by his Knight of Conquest skill. Commanded his followers to eliminate. As the green ogres, they naturally create a protective circle formed around him. He glanced at the screen displaying his notifications. Sutra remembers the evening when victory was achieved. This class is unlike any ordinary night session, and he remains puzzled about the origins of his newfound power. Although he could not forget it, the memory seemed permanently carved into his thoughts. He needed something that would come to him naturally, without having to think. He began to recite an incantation, triggering his under the king's banner skill. As the magic took effect, everyone nearby felt their strength surge. A surge of immense power courses through the green ogres, instantly invigorating them. Motivated by the strength they had just discovered, they pressed forward with renewed confidence. They surged ahead, charging directly at their opponents. Without hesitation, they swiftly overpowered their opponents and emerged victorious. Watch the scene unfold. The unexpected increase in power shown by the green ogres left everyone in awe. At that moment, he spots the boy standing quietly at the rear of the room. He comes to understand that he is responsible for orchestrating this scheme. Cast a spell in his direction. Just as it is about to make contact, moved swiftly to position himself between the others, once more drawing upon his unique power. Enhanced strength and instructed him to move forward. With a single, fluid movement, swung his weapon in a swift arc, cutting across his neck. When the Crimson Lightning Ogres witnessed the defeat of their general, fear them, and they started to withdraw from the battlefield. They make up their minds to prevent the others from getting away. At the same time, he notices a series of alerts informing him that his level has increased several times. He feels caught off guard. At that instant, examines his abilities and tries to understand where his strength comes from. He examined the marks he had left behind. He suspects that might be responsible for what has happened. Once the fighting ended, the ogres gathered together and made themselves comfortable in their camps. Inside the tent, the boy's irritation increased as he continued searching for a log-out button that remained nowhere to be found. He makes an effort to steady his nerves and carefully consider what is happening. He considers two potential explanations. The first is that he might be trapped within a game, and perhaps a glitch is causing this, one that could be resolved when the next update arrives. However, there was an even more terrifying thought, the chance that this could truly be his real life, not just some game. After giving it some thought, he realizes that situations often unfold in real life, much like they do in stories and graphic novels. He wondered if he had been sent to a different world that resembled a video game. All of his surroundings seemed genuine, and even the non-player characters interacted with him as if they were real people. He was able to notice details that were usually hidden from view. Choosing to maintain an optimistic outlook, he comforts himself with the thought that, at the very least, he was not brought into the world as a monster. He tried to reassure himself that life as a prince couldn't be so terrible. Just then, summoned him to step outside. A person challenges him to a sparring match. The young man found himself puzzled by the reasoning presented to him. Took a moment to clarify, stating that, As their destined leader, he needed to assess the young man's sword skills in order to help him get ready for the responsibilities that lay ahead. He remains unsure, yet throws a sword in his direction. He made a vow to restrain his actions. The young man responded with a smug expression, questioning whether this was an appropriate manner to address royalty. Filled with unwavering determination, he urges to approach the situation with genuine seriousness. Despite the bold claims, there was no real ability to back them up. In the following instant, he struggled to connect with a single effective blow. As swiftly reacted, he launched a counterattack. Sutra was hurled backward, letting out a sharp scream. Seeing this, his face filled with worry as he checked on Sutra's condition. In response, Sutra quickly retorted that should avoid making such unexpected attacks. Just then, a message appeared, informing him that he had acquired the fundamental skill of swordsmanship. In the beginning, he is puzzled about the source. A sudden realization flashes across his face as he remembers the moments telekinesis struck him, leaving behind a new, similar power of his own. He starts to question if each time he's targeted by a unique ability, he ends up absorbing that skill for himself. Is on the verge of calling off the sparring match, but he suddenly pauses as the young man's voice interrupts him. Reflecting on the moment, he exudes confidence as he asserts that the match has only just started for him. As charges toward him once more, realizes that he can move much more easily than before. Despite everything, he remains puzzled by what could have caused his prince to perform so poorly. At the start of the sparring match, the way they performed stood out. Seemed to grasp the technique all at once, as shoved him backward. With a smug expression, he questions whether believes he has improved. After a brief hesitation, Sutra shifted the conversation, steering it toward a question about its current level. Responds by revealing that he has reached level 21. He shifted his gaze to his own screen. Notices his current level is just 7, yet he remains determined to reach level in the near future. Unlike him, everyone in this world relied on a special evaluation spell to determine their level. He held a significant edge over others, as he alone could access his personal stats, check his extra points, and track his level whenever he wished. He hurried over to his most trusted aide. He is resolute in his quest to grow more powerful. He stopped for a moment, reconsidering his goal, and realized that his true desire went beyond simply gaining strength. He aspired to surpass everyone in how quickly he could develop. The Demon Arc of Night saga centers primarily around Zephyr. The path toward claiming the title of Demon King began, and to reach this goal, Zephyr ended the lives of each of his brothers and sisters. The year was 517, and was among those present. After working through the timeline, the boy comes to the realization that he is living in the year 512. He realized there was still a window of time left to address the issue at hand. Zephyr was bound to pursue him sooner or later. To survive, he needed to surpass Zephyr in strength. Breaks his train of thought by stepping in and mentioning that there are meetings he needs to attend. He remains unaware of any meeting, yet chooses not to respond. Encourages him to join. The character made themselves comfortable within the tent. He realizes that the people he is meeting are actually his brothers and sisters. The 7th prince, Chris Moonlight. The 8th princess was known as Moonlight. Chris wanted Sutra to feel at ease around him, reminding her that, as siblings, there was no need for discomfort. Softly assures him that feeling uneasy is normal since they are meeting for the first time. Chris requested that he address them by their actual names. Shooter recalled that these two often caused a lot of trouble within the game. The siblings were born to Moonlight, the 4th queen who ruled over the lycanthropes. The day preceding the Great Massacre unfolded. Zephyr, along with his siblings, ends their lives as well. The most significant reason was the character was born out of wedlock to the Demon King. Insists on learning the reason behind his decision to confront the Red Ogres rather than following his orders to patrol. He responds by saying that the attack caught everyone off guard, including the Red Ogres themselves. Worried for him, she inquires about how he is feeling. Because everyone saw him as the Demon King's most powerless child, He felt confused by the genuine worry she showed for Sutra, unable to grasp the reason behind her kindness. Among demon siblings, such a strong bond was rare. Chris also warned that any further reckless actions would surely result in a stern lecture from. The boy felt surprised by how kindly they treated him. A sudden idea flashed through his mind when he considered unlocking the aura skill, reasoning that both of his siblings, being lycanthropes, were likely capable of using aura as well. With a cheerful expression, he approached them and requested their help. However, when he discloses his request for her to strike him using her aura, she stands frozen in disbelief, unable to grasp what has happened as the shock continues to wash over her. The focus moves to where the fighting takes place. Ogres and the warriors of the Scarlet Lightning tribe clashed with fierce determination on the battlefield. Among this group, a single ogre belonging to the Lightning tribe charged fiercely at General. Without hesitation, he ends the other man's life in a single, swift moment. The following instant, the general commands his troops to eliminate all present. The character assures that there will be a reward. The warrior who had defeated the highest number of opponents. The environment shifted once more, transporting him back into the emptiness of the void. The woman who had appeared earlier now stood directly in front of him once more. In the following instant, he notices several silhouettes standing close by. He encountered individuals whom he did not recognize from the game's cast. He opens his eyes and finds himself lying in bed. The very first thing that catches his eye. Sfei suddenly appears, catching him off guard. Explained that its powerful aura attack had rendered him unconscious. In the following instant, he becomes aware that he has activated the aura skill. Also observes the chain and is astonished that the boy was able to awaken his aura simply by being struck with it. He confesses his surprise. Questioned whether the prince had relied on the same mysterious power when they had fought the Lightning Clan not long ago. He once more acknowledged the truth. Afterward, the boy wondered if anything important had occurred during his absence. Explained that the main forces had already secured victory over the Crimson Lightning Clan. He was taken aback, having believed he was alone. Together with his 7th and 8th siblings, he was assigned solely to confront the Red Ogres. Clarified that the tribe's sheer size made it impossible for their small group to defeat them on their own. Wondered who led the main force, and informed him that General held that position. He recalls how stood out in the game as a powerful figure, earning his deep respect back when he played as Zephyr. Suddenly, he came to an abrupt halt. General would later serve under Zephyr's command in the year 515, a fact that lingered in memory. This presented with a unique chance. By acting quickly, he could recruit as his ally before Zephyr had any opportunity to intervene. He was familiar with every detail about the other person, including his favorite dish. Yet the real difficulty lay elsewhere. Would only show obedience to a person who managed to beat him in a duel. Despite everything, Sutra remains resolute, planning to leverage this newfound information for his own benefit. He intended to make the most of his remaining time, determined to win trust and allegiance. Later on, at the campsite where was staying, the boy revealed his newly acquired first-level aura to the Moonlight siblings. Chris could hardly believe that he had managed to grasp beginner-level aura within just one day. None of them realized that Sutra had invested every single one of his stat points into enhancing his aura. The enhancement provided a much more significant improvement to physical abilities than telekinesis ever could. Chris remained confused by how impossible the situation seemed, but concluded that it had only happened thanks to Sutras. Chris wonders aloud whether he might be able to design a map of the underground. Suddenly remembers that his could help him in this situation, so he promptly asks for some pen and paper to put his plan into action. After some time had passed, carefully, a detailed map is sketched out. He received compliments from his older brother. The Moonlight siblings, clearly impressed, proposed using what they had learned about the tunnels to set a trap for the few Scarlet Lightning ogres who were still alive, since the main group had already defeated most of them. Following that moment, Chris requests some help from him. Soon after, they parted ways. Sutra accompanied, and his team as they watched over the area. As the youngest in his family, he was usually assigned simple duties such as this. Appeared satisfied, noting that, unlike before, they now had backup, a point Sutra acknowledged while reminding everyone that their efforts were the reason for this support. At that instant, his eyes catch sight of. A long robe concealed the figure. She insists that he keep her presence a secret, as she intends to trail them without being noticed. She clarifies that she intends to step in only if a situation becomes dangerous enough to threaten someone's life. If not, he would need to resolve the matter on his own, since it was truly his achievement. Upon learning this, Sutra questioned whether his sister was thinking clearly. His companion, a woman named Sarah, presented herself as assistant. They continue on their way. They entered the cave. They come across chests that have already been looted, likely abandoned by dwarves who had taken anything valuable before leaving. Sutra questioned the reason the weapons had been abandoned, while explained his belief that the dwarves likely saw little worth in those specific arms. At that moment, Carrick became aware that someone was drawing near. Glanced at his map, making sure the directions were correct. They realized that opponents were approaching. Moving with swift determination, he accessed his inventory and retrieved an item. There was only one bottle containing a flash spell. He retrieved an object he had set aside specifically for situations like this. He instructed to have everyone shut their eyes and wait for his cue before opening them again. His trusted assistant was left bewildered. A short time afterward, they noticed numerous pairs of eyes shining from the blackness within the cave. Dozens of stone spiders watched from the shadows, each one armed with venom strong enough to leave their victims completely paralyzed. After casting the flash spell, he instructs the group to shut their eyes as the spell suddenly erupts in a dazzling display. A dazzling burst of light filled the scene. The burst of light sapped the strength from the stone spiders, beings that drew power from the shadows. He immediately orders his followers to eliminate their enemies. They surge ahead with urgency. With weapons at the ready, the action commenced. The weakened spiders were mercilessly killed. As he glanced at his map, he spotted a prominent red dot standing out among several smaller ones, signaling the presence of a leader. He remembered that stone spiders typically move together in groups, each one guided by a single leader. Without hesitation, he instructs to come with him so they can take on the boss together. Without exchanging a single word, the pair moved together in silent understanding. They moved directly toward their goal without hesitation. Acts immediately, not hesitating for a second. He raises his axe and brings it down toward the monster in a powerful swing. The blow lands, yet it barely mars the creature's tough outer shell, leaving behind just a faint mark. The boy comes to understand that the boss's tough exterior can barely be damaged by weapons such as axes. Fire stood as the creature's sole vulnerability, yet he lacked any power to wield flames against it. The boss let out a thunderous roar while advancing in their direction. Both of them stiffened with anxiety. Informed the group that fire was necessary to overcome the threat. However, reminded everyone that they had no means of creating fire under their current circumstances. At that instant, speaks up, instructing him to lift his sword. He follows his instincts without hesitation, and suddenly, flames erupt along the length of his blade. She quietly wondered whether that would be sufficient for him to engage in a fight. Without hesitating any further, they immediately sprang into action. He rushes toward the boss with determination. He swung his weapon, delivering swift, cutting blows. The character wielded the flaming sword. The blow causes severe destruction. The attack was so powerful that it pierced the exoskeleton and instantly defeated the creature. Following his success, he advanced to a higher level. The character advances to the 9th level. Worried about him, inquires about how he is feeling and about the strange power he just displayed. He dismisses her concerns, explaining that it is merely a blessing that occasionally comes to him. She assumes the source is and he chooses to humor her suspicion. Despite her lingering questions, curiosity continued to nag at her. The way he handled the spider's assaults appeared far too skillful, giving the impression of someone well-versed in battle. He offered a casual explanation, claiming that he'd picked up these moves from reading, but the reality was that he had faced these monsters over and over again in the game. Suddenly steps in, cutting off their discussion. They noticed a massive door that they had just found. They make up their minds to explore the mysteries hidden within. The character gazed inward at the door, stared in disbelief, unable to process what had just happened. The character searched for a way to open a portal that would take them back to town. Wondered aloud whether was familiar with an item like that. In response, offered a non-committal reply, hinting that he might have a few ideas. As he studied the designs on the floor, he realized they were the work of artisans. He recognized the sight from previous moments when he chose hero characters while playing the game. He realizes that using it demands mana for activation. He explains that the crystal truly functions as a portal. Sarah examines the pattern too, ultimately supporting his deduction. Appeared curious about the destination of the portal, as Sarah proposed that they examine the surroundings for any carvings or markings that could offer further information. At that moment, notices a stone tablet embedded in the wall. She gazed at the strange writing, trying to make sense of the unfamiliar script. He guesses that the text is probably in the language used by dwarves. Wondered aloud if he was able to read it, but he shook his head, indicating that he could not. She glanced at Sarah, who revealed that she was unable to do it either. To everyone's surprise, unexpectedly starts reciting the words inscribed on the tablet. The text reveals details concerning Mountain's portal number 2. The information reveals a link to the third portal. He was taken aback as he discovered he was able to comprehend and speak the language. The system validated his progress by sending a notification that he had unlocked language at level 1. The surprising discovery causes him to doubt whether he can truly learn through such unconventional methods. And both of them are amazed to discover that he can genuinely understand the ancient language of the dwarves. Yet, while they marvel at his skill, Sarah's attention shifts to the message inscribed beneath the main text, finding it even more intriguing. He explains that the portal can only be activated by infusing it with mana. He then turned to his sister, requesting her help, but objected, insisting that he was capable of handling it on his own. Rather than admitting he was completely unable to use mana, he claimed instead that his struggles came from being awkward with it. After some hesitation, they finally came to an agreement. Channeled her magical energy into the shimmering portal. In the following instant, an image of Mountain is projected into view. The evidence linked directly to their present position, making it obvious that portal number 3 must be situated at that spot. This discovery also hinted at the possibility of additional tunnels crafted by the dwarves. Feels a surge of joy upon realizing that the primary warriors of the Scarlet Lightning tribe have also gathered at Mountain. Acknowledges this fact, observing that it presents them with a perfect chance to launch a surprise attack against their foes. Instructed the group to take a short break before they returned to talk about the situation with Chris. The others nodded in agreement. The following morning, they shared all the details with Chris. The individual feels great satisfaction with the discovery and acknowledges Sutra as the one responsible for uncovering it. He then wonders aloud what kind of reward his younger brother might want. Sutra hesitated, attempting to refuse the offer, yet Chris remained firm. Acting as both the older sibling and the group's leader, Chris asserted that it was his duty to recognize Sutra's achievement with a reward. After a brief moment of uncertainty, she hesitated, cautioning that what he was about to ask might seem outlandish. Chris offered him encouragement, prompting to confess his true desire. He wished for his older brother to instruct him in the art of the beast god fist. Chris is taken aback by the unexpected news. Sutra realizes that his lack of experience with weapons limits him for now, but he sees potential in martial arts, particularly in this technique, as a chance to grow stronger. The beast god fist art was an extraordinary and scarce S-rank skill, typically reserved for inheritance by members of the lycanthrope royal family. Anticipates that his brother will turn down the offer, so he promptly lets Chris know that he will not be bothered if Chris says no. Chris, however, catches him off guard by accepting the request to become his teacher. Despite agreeing to instruct him, he makes it clear that only the aura aspect of the martial art will be taught, while the secret techniques will remain undisclosed. He wonders aloud if feels content with the reward that has been offered. Noticing that his brother remained speechless in shock, Chris speculated that he might not feel satisfied. Shaking off his distraction, the boy quickly reassured him that it was more than sufficient. Chris's features relax as he wonders aloud if Sutra genuinely sees him as a brother. For a brief pause, Sutra says nothing, unsettled by how much meaning the word brother holds for him, a feeling he has not experienced before. The thought of having Chris as a brother was something he found appealing. He decides to accept the offer and seals the agreement with a firm handshake from Chris. In his thoughts, he confessed to himself that he was eager to collaborate with him. Suddenly, his system notifies him that he is now allied with the Moonlight siblings. Its current condition remained stable. At the same time, the Scarlet Lightning tribe had set up their camp. A prisoner was being held captive while an interrogation took place. The Scarlet Ogres insisted on finding out if her arrival had always meant harm for their tribe. The identity of the prisoner becomes clear. It is the kingdom's sixth princess. At the same time, the boy examines his stats screen and spots an unusual detail. Each time he advanced to a higher level, every one of his abilities improved by 2 points, with the exception of his charisma, which increased by just 1. He remains puzzled by the system's strange behavior, unable to grasp the cause behind it. He remembered from his time playing Night Saga that looks and charisma were different. A character's looks decided their beauty, but their charisma affected how much others liked them. Despite his lingering concerns, he chooses to put the issue on hold, feeling confident that his progress remains strong at this stage. He was on the verge of achieving level 10 as well. Within the game, both Zephyr and reached level 10, which caused their unique abilities, Chosen One and Descendant of Darkness, to become stronger as well. Because of this, he now anticipates that one of his own skills might advance in the same way. At that instant, arrives to escort him away. They mentioned that it was time for them to leave. After stepping outdoors, observes that Sutra appears unusually cheerful and wonders what has caused this uplifted spirit. He dismisses the issue without concern. He shifts his attention to face his group. Afterward, the character instructs the group to proceed forward. Some time later, the ogres, accompanied by their wolves, themselves with their tasks. Beneath the surface, within the winding network of tunnels. At the same time, the leaders assembled close by. Chris observed the mages as they examined the portal and inquired about the results of their investigation. A mage confirmed that their assumption had been right, revealing that the portal truly led to the river near Mountain. Chris wonders aloud about the stability of the structure, seeking reassurance. The mage responds with confidence, explaining that the dwarves constructed it, which means it is both strong and dependable. Afterwards, both magicians work together to open the portal. A sense of wonder washes over them as a portal gate materializes before their eyes. The young man grew up surrounded by kindness, shaped by the positive influence of his supportive community. As he approached the gate, his companions clustered nearby, encouraging him to come along with them. He hurried after the group and slipped through the portal. This situation causes them to arrive at Mountain rose in the distance, standing close to where the Scarlet Lightning tribe had set up their camp. Chris feels a surge of happiness upon realizing that the prediction was correct. He carefully surveyed the camp, coming to the realization that it was home to thousands of soldiers. As he planned their next move, he determined that approaching from the rear would be most effective, especially if they focused their assault on the enemy's supplies. He makes the decision to have General launch a frontal assault, planning to use this attack as a diversion for the enemy, so that his own forces can quietly set fire to the food supplies without much resistance. At that instant, Sarah observes that the area lacks a significant military presence. Chris observed the situation, suspecting that the others might have already departed to launch an attack. Soon afterward, they notice a group of individuals nearby. From a short distance away, The boy observed what appeared to be a chaotic fight unfolding. Chris told him to focus his energy into his eyes so he could see things more clearly. He follows the instruction without hesitation. A genuine conflict was unfolding. The siblings exchanged thoughts about the Lightning Tribe's current opponents. They quickly ruled out, since his calendar showed no upcoming matches. Furthermore, they noted that the event appeared to be a minor skirmish rather than a major battle. Noticing something, Shooter turns her attention in that direction. A girl stood across from them. The conclusion is reached that the conflict involves a fight with dark elves. Looked toward him, seeking further clarification. He mentioned that he deduced it from their petite stature, along with the fact that they were traveling on Dracos. Chris observes as the dark elves begin to pull back from the area. Based on how quickly they were moving, it appeared that their leader had been defeated. At the same time, struggled to make sense of the situation, feeling uncertain about what was truly happening. Despite everything, the boys' thoughts lingered on the mysterious reason why dark elves were present in that place. After some time, the group comes back and starts to. The communication was directed toward General. He felt pleased with having uncovered the dwarves' portal, and grew curious about the technique used to locate such a precious find. Chris insisted that deserved all the recognition, but simply shrugged, dismissing the praise and attributing their success to mere chance. Although he secretly felt joy at the sight of his favorite general, General assured him that a reward awaited at the Demon King's castle. Chris then inquires about the recent conflict between the Lightning Tribe and the Dark Elves, acknowledged his awareness of the situation, and clarified that the Dark Elves had chosen to participate in the battle of their own free will. Chris grew more curious, eager to uncover why their group had come into conflict with the Lightning Tribe. Confessed that he wasn't entirely sure of all the details, but he did reveal that the Dark Elves had already been preparing to send scouts in anticipation of the war. He then highlighted the most significant problem, disclosing that the leader of the Dark Elves' independent squad was involved. Chris realized that the Lightning Tribe had taken someone captive, which suddenly made sense of their unexpected withdrawal. The boy began to wonder about their commander. Goes on to disclose that they are already familiar with this individual. The commander turned out to be herself. Born to the third queen, held the title of princess among the Dark Elves. She shared her birth with her twin brother, Sylvan, who held the title of fifth prince. In the storyline, the twins eventually chose to support the fourth princess. Because of this alliance, she continuously felt resentment toward. He cannot figure out why she is present, and suspects that her intention could be to take Merit away. His thoughts are interrupted when Chris questions if the Lightning Tribe ever discovered who had captured them. Admits that he does not know anything about the situation. Chris wonders aloud what they should do next. Responds with determination, declaring that they will rescue her if they are able. Chris suggested the possibility of negotiation, but reiterated with determination that they would only agree to discuss terms if the Lightning Tribe approached them first. Otherwise, they refused to give in to any demands. Chris nods in agreement, showing that he is willing to go along with the decision. The conversation concludes with assuring that he will collect details on his end and reach out to Chris if necessary. Urgently emphasizes that must be saved. Chris, on the other hand, disagrees with her opinion, believing that visiting the Lightning Tribe camp would put them all at risk. Firmly reiterated her belief that they had no choice but to help, emphasizing that was, after all, their sister. Chris is aware of this fact, yet uncertainty continues to hold him back. After some time passes, the group finally makes their decision. They considered what steps to take next. Planned to confront the main group of the Lightning Tribe, drawing them away from their camps. With the enemy distracted, the others would have the chance to launch an attack on the encampment. His objective is to move toward the center and stir up enough disorder to draw everyone's attention away. At the same time, Sutra and are able to guide their respective teams to support their operation. Wonders aloud whether his assignment involves saving. He receives confirmation, but is told that before rescuing the princess, their plan is to destroy the enemy's weapons and provisions. Ultimately, he cautions the group that if the situation worsens, they must withdraw. He makes it clear that they cannot endanger additional lives solely for sake. His sister objected, insisting that was part of their family and deserved their loyalty. Chris, however, firmly stated that as the commander, he could not jeopardize their mission for the sake of their sister. Observing the brother and sister, the boy observes Chris hesitating to help, which makes him curious about what might be causing Chris's unwillingness. They followed the strategy they had agreed upon. The group surged ahead, preparing to face the Lightning Tribe in combat. Inspired his warriors, urging them to defeat their foes completely. At the foot of mountain, they paused for a moment, taking time to study the enemy's camp ahead. Chris focused his attention on the heart of the camp, his eyes unwavering as he observed every detail. Suddenly, a powerful blast shakes the entire field. Sprang from his hiding place, catching everyone off guard with his sudden attack. He commanded his troops to advance swiftly. At the same time, Sutra kept their soldiers restrained, choosing not to advance. Wondered aloud why they were hesitating, while Sutra calmly clarified that they needed to hold back until they received the proper signal. His troops surged forward, breaking through the opposing ranks with overwhelming force, erasing vast groups all at once. Once the majority of them had been defeated, commanded his soldiers to pull back, and they obeyed his instructions without hesitation. Now it was Chris's chance to go. He issues the order. He led his soldiers forward, each one advancing just as the strategy demanded. The unexpected rush leaves their opponents unprepared and stunned. The two youngest siblings quickly reminded each other to stay safe. Sutra carefully spread out his map, studying it before signaling his soldiers to head left, guiding them toward the camp where the food supplies were stored. As they traveled, they defeated every foe that stood before them. At one moment, was surprised when a red orc suddenly appeared and confronted him. The boy responds in an instant, sending a dagger flying with precision that hits its target flawlessly. He is able to do this thanks to his newly acquired level 1 skill in throwing daggers. Found himself confused by the unusual skill he had just witnessed and wondered aloud about its origin, hoping for an explanation. However, replied with uncertainty, offering only a non-committal response before insisting they continue onward. In reality, had spent the night before practicing throwing daggers and had unexpectedly unlocked the ability through this experimentation. At last, the group reached the food storage section, prepared to set it ablaze. Paused, uncertain, as the possibility that might be within crossed his mind. She faced the danger of being trapped in the spreading fire, prompting him to command to wait, emphasizing that locating was their top priority. However, reminded him how challenging it would be to accomplish that. Accessed his minimap in an effort to find her location. She was expected to be classified as a neutral NPC, which would cause her marker on the map to display as either purple or blue. After searching intently, he eventually notices one. He signals to, encouraging him to come along. Together, they manage to sneak into a single camp. She glanced from side to side, taking in her surroundings. At last, he locates his sister. Instantly realizes who he is. He insists on learning why the other person has shown up. He quickly moves to loosen her restraints, not pausing for any explanations. With urgency pressing in, their main focus is getting away. At the same time, his thoughts raced ahead, crafting a new strategy. He saw a chance to ensure his sister would owe him a favor. There was a possibility that this might offer significant advantages down the road. After leaving the camp, Sutra presses to quicken her pace, stressing the urgency of reconnecting with the Moonlight siblings. She was taken aback, hardly able to believe that the two of them had truly arrived to save her. Meanwhile, he remained puzzled, failing to grasp why she thought this mission was so important. She starts to describe the current struggle for control among members of the royal family. Her sentence remained unfinished as suddenly noticed a group of enemies advancing in their direction. At that moment, Sutra gave a quick signal to his sister. He addressed her directly, and for a brief moment she listened to him, but then she abruptly changed her mind. She froze as it dawned on her that he had addressed her by name. Before she has a chance to wonder about it any longer, she alerted him to the threat of an approaching assault. The burst of flames struck him head-on. He let out a loud cry as pain shot through him, and stood motionless, stunned, while fire consumed him. They found themselves even more astonished by what happened next. The attacker faced their own flames as the fire rebounded toward them. The reflection revealed the image of himself. The group looked on in shock, unable to believe their eyes as he stepped forward without a scratch. He had just unlocked the ability to control mana and summon fire arrows, both at their very first level. Without hesitation, he skillfully put his newfound abilities to use, launching blazing arrows with impressive accuracy. He appears content, a look of satisfaction settling across his face. At last, he possessed a magical ability that belonged solely to him. Even someone with only the lowest rank, starting at the very first level, could do it. The fire arrow claimed another victim, bringing down an enemy with lethal precision. His celebration is abruptly ended when someone suddenly strikes him from behind. He turned around and realized that an ice arrow had been fired, but saw that it was aimed at someone else, not at him. Moved ahead, her worry clear in her expression. He prevents her from continuing. He stands patiently, his eyes shining with unwavering resolve. He wished that the following strike would be an ice-based attack, giving him the chance to gain an ice skill. The ice arrow struck its target just as anticipated. He immediately gained the ability to use Ice Arrow at level 1. His joy, though, does not last long. Fatigue overwhelms him like a powerful tide, causing his body to give out as he sinks to the ground. A warning signal illuminated on his system, alerting him that his health was dangerously low, with just 13 points remaining. He muttered quiet curses to himself. He reminded himself that enduring another blow could be more than his body could handle. At that instant, let out a dismissive sound and criticized him for trying to protect her. She points out that, among all their siblings, he is the least strong, and should actually be the one who needs to be looked after. He comes to understand that she has misinterpreted what he did. When he pushed her out of the way, she believed he was trying to shield her from harm. Despite her curiosity about his newfound magical powers, she continued to press him with questions. At the same time, his focus shifts to a sudden distraction. Cast a powerful spell that defeated the enemy. As she drew the ice arrow out of his body, she started to treat the injury, carefully tending to it so it could recover. At that instant, his system alerted him that he had gained the ability to use level 1 healing magic. As he observed the wound healing, he couldn't help but admire his sister's extraordinary magical talent. She wondered aloud if he was feeling any better, prompting him to confirm that he was. However, he also observed that her healing appeared to restore his blood, a detail that left her clearly puzzled. Before he gets a chance to explain, a towering blood ogre lunged toward them, its fury driving it forward with the unstoppable force of a rampaging bull. Gazed at the creature, her eyes wide with shock, clearly unacquainted with this type of monster. Remaining composed, he informed her that it was a mutated kind. The reality that they needed to overcome such a terrifying beast in order to continue left her nearly speechless. He nods with a somber expression, accepting the situation. When the ogre suddenly charged toward them, both were too frightened to confront it directly. Without hesitation, they spun around and sprinted away. They were still uncertain about how to handle a creature like that, especially while it was on the move. Despite its massive frame, the blood ogre moves with surprising swiftness. To confront this challenge, its mind raced as she devised a strategy. She decided that Sutra needed to distract the monster long enough for her to gather the energy for a potent spell that could defeat it. But Sutra stood uncertain, completely clueless about how to stall the creature. Desperation surged within him as the ogre's overwhelming strength splintered the earth beneath their feet, forcing him to make a move. He nodded in agreement to take on the creature's attention, even though found the unfamiliar word confusing. He looked at and instructed him to perform the same maneuver they had practiced earlier. Without a moment's pause, nodded in agreement. Retrieved the dagger from his collection of belongings. The recent increase in his level had finally made it possible for him to use this ability. He drove the object into the earth and unleashed his ability, empowered by the presence of the king's banner. Enhancing Kerks. The character possessed both endurance and strength. The Blood Ogre lunged toward with ferocious speed, but raised his weapon just in time, stopping the attack and forcing the creature to stumble backward. The character delivered a powerful blow directly to the creature's chest. Meanwhile, quietly maneuvers herself to the rear of the creature. A slippery layer of magical grease appeared on the ground under its feet. The giant lost its balance and crashed to the ground. Soared upward, launching himself into the air. Launching himself through the air, he came crashing down onto the ogre's chest. The impact left it gasping for air. Sutra experiences a wave of relief, knowing that they have at last defeated one of their most formidable foes. Despite the fact that many continue to linger. Without warning, he becomes enveloped in a radiant, golden glow. He opened his status window and was stunned by what he saw. After much effort, the character managed to achieve level 10 at last. His ability to modify his main character traits had also advanced to a new level. His primary ability. The protagonist's environment shifted as their adjustment reached level 2, granting them access to a newly unlocked passive skill. Without waiting any longer, he quickly presses the button to find out what appears. He possessed battlefield protection at the first level, a skill that made attacks directed toward him a bit less precise. He finds it almost unbelievable that the situation resembles the effect. This trope often appeared in films, where attacks or gunshots would come dangerously close to the protagonist but never actually harm them. Thanks to this ability, his likelihood of gaining the same kind of invincibility that main characters often possess soared dramatically. His urgent tone interrupts his train of thought when a horde of enemies charges in their direction. She unleashed the spells Wind, Whirl, and Rage, summoning a small tornado that ripped through the lines of her foes. As Sutra observed intently, it dawned on them that what they were witnessing was not a spell after all. Despite having a similar appearance, it is not actually one. Instead, it involves summoning the presence of spirits. He remembers that dark elves, even though people often view them with suspicion, still possess the same magical talents as other elves, and his sister stands out as someone who was born with the rare ability to call upon spirits. As Sutra watched her battle fiercely with the aid of her summoned spirit, a surge of desire began to well up within him. He quietly hopes that one day her summoning magic will hit him, believing this might unlock those same abilities within himself. A yellow flare appeared in the sky, signaling to everyone that it was time to fall back. A figure becomes visible high above, taking shape amidst the clouds. Someone was questioning whether another person might be in trouble. The hero instructed the orc leader to retreat with the rest of the soldiers, then approached Moonlight on his own. Decides to accompany him, wanting to show her gratitude for his help in rescuing her. They decide to move forward, wishing that the 8th princess had managed to avoid capture by the Scarlet Lightning tribe. The 6th princess wondered aloud why he seemed so concerned about her well-being. Despite his insistence that his actions stem solely from their sibling relationship, his true motivation lies in his loyalty to the Alliance. At the same time, Moonlight fought off the approaching ogres, skillfully wielding her magical abilities against them. Following a powerful punch, she unleashed another flame-infused ability, causing her opponents to cry out in agony. Despite her efforts, a pair of them managed to resist her magic and charged toward her with sudden aggression. In the face of the unexpected assault, she manages to stay upright and quickly lashes out with her weapon. She unleashed her abilities, hurling her opponents through the air and scattering them across the battlefield. At that moment, and had also reached the scene. She wants to know the reason they chose not to fall back. As she shifts her gaze in their direction, unable to contain her excitement, she rushed forward and wrapped in a warm embrace. Filled with happiness, he felt immense relief upon realizing she was unharmed. They wrapped their arms around each other in a warm embrace. The hero studied the map closely, tracing possible routes with a careful gaze. She cautions the group that their adversaries are making their way back toward them. They instructed him to take the front and guide them to safety, while the others stayed behind to watch their backs. As soon as they made their way back, Entering through the portal came the eighth. The princess noticed the hero's transformation, marveling at how much wiser and more grown-up he seemed than before. At that moment, Chris Moonlight made an entrance and acknowledged that they had come back. However, upon being welcomed by the sixth princess, he remains distant and unapproachable whenever she is around. He goes on to clarify that the chief of the Scarlet Lightning tribe lost the will to continue the battle once he witnessed their encampment engulfed in flames. The outcome resulted in General emerging as the triumphant leader. Despite the fact that the chief remained in charge, the prince announced a plan to attack troops before the leader of the Scarlet Lightning could unite with them. Following the announcement, he turned his attention to expressing his curiosity about her presence. She had been investigating the ancient ruins after learning of the conflict, but was taken prisoner before she could offer assistance. He couldn't help but feel a pang of shame for hesitating to help her before. He departed, advising her to get some rest before he went. The orcs themselves with getting the food ready. The boy took a moment to reflect on his abilities and felt satisfied with what he could do. His nickname was Jew, a name others often used when referring to him. As he remains seated, the sixth princess enters the room and seizes hold of the other princess. He was grabbed by his clothes. She yanked him nearer, startling him with an unexpected command to remove his clothes. Sutra gazed back at her, wide-eyed with terror, as she persistently insisted he undress. Yet, when she was questioned about her reasoning, she reveals her true intention is to help him recover, moving beyond the basic first aid she had given before and now focusing on treating his deeper, internal wounds. She attends to his needs. He requested her assistance with something. The power to grant it rested solely with her. Later, after she finishes using her healing magic on him and departs, he feels a sense of happiness from the knowledge he has gained. He received 3 healing spells, just as he had asked. Additionally, this was the day set aside for him to study the werewolf, a specialized form of the beast fist martial arts. The martial art represented the essence of the lycanthrope culture. The werewolf's beast fist technique served as the cornerstone, leading Moonlight to choose this style as the first lesson she would impart to him. She went on to describe how the beast fist technique required the use of both internal and external aura, and informed him that his next lesson would focus on understanding the fundamentals of controlling internal aura. Following the given instructions, the hero gently shuts his eyes, focusing inward to sense the energy flowing within. The energy was nearly as strong as the force of the soul. He gained the ability known as Jew's Physique Level 1. This improvement allows people to become more efficient when practicing skills that require physical mastery. He acquires several additional abilities, and a notification appears, explaining that advancing a skill will reveal its unique characteristics. Feeling fortunate, he appreciated the unique advantages that came with being the story's main character. He went back to continue his training. Before long, he becomes familiar with the fundamental motions. The 8th princess expressed her desire for him to progress to the following technique. Without warning, a wolf approached Moonlight at a swift pace. She became alarmed when she learned that unit had disappeared. The 7th prince summoned all 4 of his siblings to attend a gathering. He announces that has discovered their scheme. Nevertheless, general sources had revealed different information. The prince gestured toward a specific spot on the map, indicating the place where Yakuza and were supposed to meet. They choose to ally themselves with the general. They decided to initiate an all-out assault against the Scarlet Lightning tribe. When the siblings finally arrived at the primary headquarters of the organization, the army marched forward, determined to conquer the Scarlet Lightning tribe. Prince noticed a strange sense of familiarity when he looked at the general's face. He had always been her favorite during their time together in Night Saga. As the group paused to gather their strength in the moments leading up to the battle, in his dream, the hero notices the presence of 2 women. The individual possessed a pair of eyes, each displaying a unique color. Among them stood a figure clad in armor. Whenever the dream brings up themes of conquest and war, he opened his eyes, disoriented and unsure of where he was. At that moment, the leader of the orcs arrived to rouse him, signaling that it was time to leave. They advanced together, prepared for the coming fight. During the battle, he is placed in charge of the left flank, while the general leads the center. Chris Moonlight and the 8th Princess are responsible for the right side. Meanwhile, the swift Dark Elves operate separately, assigned to protect the rear as an independent force. Yet, before the hero has a chance to regain his composure, he suddenly realizes he is standing amidst the chaos of the battlefield. Encircled by a massive horde of orcs, the warriors prepared themselves as their battle formation. At the general's command, the soldiers rushed forward, launching an attack against the Scarlet Lightning tribe. Meanwhile, the tribe has made thorough preparations for the attack, so as the soldiers approach the enemy camp, a powerful explosion erupted, forcefully propelling them backward. As the dust and smoke finally cleared, the general remained alert and focused. The sight of a massive swamp mammoth appeared before them. Without warning, a series of additional blasts shook the area. Various orcs on the ground were sent flying in different directions. Swamp mammoths kept emerging. In addition, a swarm emerged from beneath the earth, making it clear that the enemy tribe had already discovered the whole strategy. Given the circumstances, the 8th Princess advises her group to pull back temporarily and wait for a more favorable opportunity to act. Upon hearing Chris Moonlight warn that failure to retreat could result in total destruction, she responds by pointing out that staying put would only lead to more lives being lost. Finally, the moment had arrived. He directed the mages to create a defensive barrier at the back, instructing them to keep the enemies at bay, while commanding the others to organize themselves into formation and get ready to withdraw. Amidst the chaos of the battlefield, they relentlessly pressed their assault against the orcs, refusing to let up until one of their foes faltered. One of the attackers raised their weapon, preparing to launch an assault on the hero. The orc leader wasted no time, swiftly sending the crashing to the ground. The character urges the hero to regain his composure. The defensive line continued to retreat. They fought off their attackers, gradually forcing them to retreat until they were able to get away safely. Upon coming back to the main area, a deep bass sound resonated through the air. The 7th Prince acknowledged that he had been careless. At that point, the general recommended that they either retreat entirely or send a request for backup to the Demon King's castle. At the moment when the prince is on the verge of making his decision, suddenly cut into the conversation, offering her own idea for everyone to consider. She shares that her purpose for coming was to investigate an ancient ruin located at the far edge of the mountains. For 1.5 millennia, those mountains had kept their secrets hidden within their rugged slopes. There was a place known as, believed to be the lair of the Earth Dragon. A dragon forged from molten rock surrounded his lair with an army of vigilant guardians to safeguard his vast collection of treasures. The dwarves, who had once made their home in the mountains, stood among the protectors, provided them with powerful weapons so they could safeguard the realm. The ancient anvil, known as the birthplace of thunder, possessed the remarkable power to unleash magic on a massive scale, commanding entire armies and exercising control over the chimeras designed to guard precious treasures. To secure victory, the siblings and their forces needed to locate the ancient relic. Insisted that choosing the anvil was their sole chance to overcome the Scarlet Lightning tribe. The general inquired whether she was aware of the precise whereabouts. Because she does not, the 7th Prince considers it complete nonsense to take such a risk. All their lives became entangled in a search for hidden treasure. Yet, Prince Sutra raises his voice, drawing everyone's attention. While playing the game as the hero Locke, he confirmed the anvil's existence through first-hand experience. He also recounted discovering a similar tale during his research on runes. Despite everything, he insisted that was the one person he truly trusted. Chris Moonlight continued to firmly oppose the suggestion. The hero brought up the existence of a similar legend told by another tribe. Believing the entrance to the ruins is likely close, he announces his intention to search the area and promises to take full responsibility if things go wrong. He requests permission from the others to give his best effort as well. They relied on horses conjured by phantom steed spell. The siblings, accompanied by the orc's head, began their journey in search of what they needed. He figures that reaching the entrance to the ruins should take him roughly an hour. Relying on his minimap for guidance, he tries to figure out a way to bring everyone there without making anyone suspicious. Uncertain about how to continue the conversation, they remained silent. He falsely claims that the tunnel maps show a predictable pattern, suggesting that by matching the land features here with the tunnel's traits, he could estimate where the anvil might be found. Although everyone appears to be content on the outside, inside they are each struggling with their own hidden worries. She felt confused by what he had just said, assures him that she understands and waits for him to show her where to go. Despite sensing that something about the situation is strange, she cannot help but go along with it. After trailing behind the hero and mirroring their actions, the group comes upon an entrance that has been obstructed. Noticing how puzzled they looked, he requests that the 8th princess attempt to force her way through by delivering a powerful blow. Felt uncertain about where the anvil was situated, the protagonist firmly maintains, based on his own calculations. They realized that by passing through this spot, they would avoid running into the dungeon guardians. He was reminded that had relocated. Moonlight finds itself unable to pierce the darkness. The shadow belonging to the 6th princess appeared. She combined her understanding of destruction with her explosive abilities gained from exploring ancient ruins. As soon as the rocks smash into each other, as she circles around, the doorway slides open. Inside, they notice a half-dome positioned among a cluster of pillars. They approached the half-dome, believing it might hold the anvil, and began examining it closely to determine how it could be opened. At the same time, observes that there are 9 statues surrounding them, and she realizes that just 3 of these statues are holding weapons. Because the weapons had been crafted by dwarves, they understood that they needed to arm the rest of the statues with similar weapons too. They must address other concerns first, even before considering how to get them. The hero disclosed that, during his previous journey through the tunnels, he had collected a total of 6 swords crafted by dwarves. Nevertheless, the moment each statue receives a sword, a radiant glow emanates from the curved structure above. The object slowly started to open. As soon as the object was completely revealed, delight sparkled in their eyes at the sight of the anvil, known for forging thunder. They are taken aback when they see the anvil. Without hesitation, the 6th princess considers the method to trigger its activation. She instructs both the hero and the orc chief to remain where they are. She instructed the group to move to the points on the circle corresponding to 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. As she clarified her plan, she let them know that they would channel mana into the disc, beginning with her and continuing in a clockwise order, with the power steadily building as it passed along. After everyone settled into their designated spots, they began channeling mana into the anvil. A brilliant light suddenly bursts forth. A sudden burst of light erupted above, causing the boy to squeeze his eyes shut. However, the moment he lifts his eyelids, he realizes he is surrounded by a throng of people. The character found themselves encircled by a horde of men and terrifying beasts. Before he has a chance to understand what is happening, a harsh, booming sound reverberates through the air. A fearsome dragon soared overhead, striking terror into those who witnessed its flight. A mysterious voice instructs the group to guard the revered nest belonging to the legendary. The goal was to serve as the guardian who separates the worlds of demons and humans. Without warning, the hero's eyes snapped open as he realized he was sprawled across the floor. He suddenly understands that the creature he saw was actually the legendary black dragon known as. The rest of the group also acknowledges that they witnessed it. Although the vision remains incomprehensible to them, they still observe intently. Confidently states that the answer will become clear once the anvil is revealed. Despite this, as her hand makes contact with it, waves of vibrant purple energy erupted, spreading outward with tremendous force. The situation began to have an immediate impact on her. As the hero steps in to offer assistance, he is hit as well. The peculiar force influenced them. The challengers receive instructions to overcome the Earth Dragon's power, facing his trial because they lack the necessary approval. Some time later, the powerful surge of energy gradually faded, and at the same time, the anvil shrank back to its normal size. The object quickly transformed, reducing in size until it became a hammer. Meanwhile, the boy's eye darkened to pitch black as he sat clutching the anvil, and the sixth princess was nowhere in sight. In contrast, the Scarlet Lightning tribe comes across, the central headquarters where the hero and his soldiers gathered, as well as the leader of their Yakuza group. The character instructs the others to get ready to eliminate any remaining opponents. In accordance with instructions from their leader, the Scarlet Lightning tribe launched an assault on the main base, unleashing their fearsome beasts to lead the charge. Massive spheres of flame filled the scene. These substances are responsible for triggering blasts. Chris Moonlight wasted no time stepping outdoors. Feeling uneasy about the situation, she wondered what steps to take now that the rest of the group had left for the mountains. They stood at the brink of total destruction. From his vantage point high in the mountains, the chief of the Scarlet Lightning tribe observed the chaos below, his laughter echoing as he took pleasure in the devastation of the base camp. He attempts to use magic against the orcs. However, his hand suddenly refuses to respond. At that instant, the massive mammoth's fur shifted to a deep shade of purple as it fixed its gaze intently ahead. The assault on the Scarlet Lightning tribe begins. Their chief was left bewildered, unable to grasp what was unfolding. A sudden realization dawns on him. The possibility crossed their minds that the Demon King's child might have already discovered the anvil. At the mountain's base, the hero slowly pushed himself up from the earth at last, gripping the thunder hammer tightly in their hand. He noticed the object in his hand, recognizing it as the counterpart to the anvil. Observed that it appeared, had made his choice and selected him. She requests that he put it to use, because magical energy had revealed to the way to control the... A thunderous hammer appeared in the scene. After gaining control, they demanded unwavering obedience. He chooses to begin his quest by taking control of the powerful swamp mammoths. He brings the hammer down, letting its head connect firmly with the curve of the half-dome. At the main base, every swamp mammoth suddenly started, decimating the Scarlet Lightning tribe. The unexpected shift in circumstances could. The general came to understand that the prince and princesses had accomplished their task. Seizing the moment, he commanded the orcs to eliminate the rival tribe. Following their orders, the orcs launched an assault against both the ogres. The enemy chief watched the situation unfold, unable to hide his bewilderment. His subordinate suggested that it would be wise to withdraw for the time being. She decided to be patient, hoping that an opportunity would come her way again. However, just as they are about to get away, something stops them. The seventh prince made his entrance. He offers the chief an opportunity to give up. The chief raised his weapon and brought it down in an attempt to end the prince's life. Despite the situation, the prince unleashes the power of the beast god fist technique. With a swift and powerful blow, the chief is defeated instantly. The sudden turn of events fills his subordinates with fear, prompting them to scatter and abandon the area. Chris Moonlight found himself by himself, weighed down by concerns about. The hero stood alongside the princesses. At the same time, the orc leader and the rest of the group looked on in astonishment, while the mammoths handled the last remaining foes. The sixth princess explained to the others the remarkable abilities possessed by the anvil. She prepares to elaborate, but an unexpected stumble causes her to lose her balance. The adjutant swiftly moves to support her as she stumbles, gently suggesting that she take a moment to recover. As the group chooses to head back, they realize that the main character has mysteriously vanished. Once the fighting had ended, the hero experienced a significant increase in levels, as a result of mastering the relic once belonging to. A notification suddenly appeared before him. The narration explained that the degree of conquest had increased as well. The improvement of his main skills fills him with happiness. He kept exploring different abilities. The 8th princess made her entrance. He hits himself on the forehead, frustrated that he forgot to bring the map. Without notifying anyone, he left for the mountain hall. Afterward, he received a reprimand for his actions. She informed him that they would be spending the night at this spot because lay motionless, having slipped into unconsciousness. After the pair arrived back at the mountain hall, Moonlight carefully went over every detail with the hero, while the 6th princess received treatment from the rest of the team. They were unable to call forth the phantom steed on their own and needed assistance. They needed to set up camp at that spot and look after her. Later, after everyone has settled down to rest, questions whether his energy has completely returned after such a brief rest. He kept gaining experience without feeling any exhaustion. He suddenly becomes aware that they are standing amidst ancient ruins. This suggested that the dungeon likely concealed secret weapons or valuable treasures within its depths. In spite of the dungeons, many traps and watchful guardians, he exudes confidence in his role as the ruler of the ruin, a feeling that stems from a particular reason: gaining complete control over the anvil's unmatched strength. Consequently, he carries the orc's severed head along with him. She enters the ruins in search of him. They searched for both valuable weapons and hidden treasures. Upon opening the door, they are confronted by an extraordinarily formidable monster. The arc golem rested on the ground, having taken the shape of a griffin. They quietly exited the room, making sure not to make a sound. At last, the group discovers a hidden chamber filled with weapons and glittering treasure. The orc leader lifted a piece of armor and held it up for the hero to see. He detects a faint trace of mana coming from the object, revealing that the armor is enchanted with magic. He turned to the orc with a question. He planned to keep it solely for his own use. After glancing over the remaining treasures, he chooses to place the valuable items into his inventory for safekeeping. The character then instructed the orc leader to gather any items that might be helpful. Without warning, he notices a chest that has been shut tight. As the object was opened, a concealed doorway slowly emerged from within the wall. The anticipation of discovering a unique and valuable treasure filled them with excitement. He walked in alone and soon arrived at a spacious room. He scans his surroundings. He notices a voice reaching out to him from within the purple flames that burn at the heart of the chamber. He instantly recognizes them by sensing their mana, even though this is their first time meeting. He instantly recognizes the voice as belonging to. Within the swirling purple energy, an object hovered weightlessly. The item was gauntlet known as. The eyes of the Jews lit up with excitement when they saw gauntlet. He moves ahead and reaches out to take it. He soon discovered that he was missing several essential qualities needed to handle the gauntlet. He continues to receive recognition as the one in charge. Permission was given. A surge of surprise sweeps over him as the gauntlet is drawn toward his hand, snapping perfectly into place. He grew stronger, his magical abilities intensified, and his stamina improved. He feels a rush of excitement and satisfaction at obtaining such an impressive item. An orc's head emerged, prompting the hero to quickly stash the gauntlet away in his inventory. When questioned about how he looks, the orc head explains that his eyes have witnessed all there is to see. The boy felt anxious, concerned that someone might discover the hidden inventory. Despite everything, the orc leader recognizes the importance of keeping the gauntlet a secret. He assures them that he will not reveal the secret to anyone. He proceeds to request that the hero depart from the area. She found it unsettling to be around him. Until the hero arrived. Someone had purchased a practical item intended for the 6th occasion. The princess collected it as they traveled along their path. After making their way back to join the others, he assisted as she drank the potion that would restore her strength through its magical properties. A sudden sensation stirs her, gradually bringing her back to awareness. When she inquires about the events that transpired, the 8th princess explains that the hero retrieved a potion for her from the ruins. taking all of this into account, proudly displays his authority over the ruins, making it clear to everyone that he is in charge. The speaker recommends that take some time to rest so she can. She needed to fully restore her magical abilities. Later, at a subsequent time, the team returns to their headquarters by air. The general offers his congratulations to the group. At that moment, everything was set into motion. The seventh prince emerged from the encampment as well. At last, the sixth princess's efforts were recognized, and her performance was met with genuine appreciation. He suggests that they take a break before completing the final details. There were still a few members of the Scarlet Lightning tribe remaining, but plans had been made to eliminate them within 2 weeks. Referred to the trip as a brief 2-week getaway. Before he could notice, Moonlight leaned in close and quietly murmured her opposing thoughts into his ear. He hinted to the group that he was somehow connected to her. Starting at that point, led the hero onward so he could further practice his beast fist techniques. This constant strain drains his energy, making him feel utterly exhausted. During the initial 5 days, she nearly overwhelms him with her strength. A week went by before he began to pay closer attention to the way she moved. By the 11th day, significant progress became evident in him, as both his beast fist and aura advanced to level 5. Informed him that at last, he was ready to begin training in the beast fist technique. The thought fills him with excitement. She proceeds to explain that she intends to instruct him in a different technique for harnessing aura. He needed to pay close attention and remain focused. Having made the point clear, she weaves her fingers through the hero's, joining their hands together. Channeling her mana, she forms a... He sensed a force in the field, reminiscent of the power found in the beast fist. The prince felt himself drawn forward, led by the subtle presence that surrounded the princess. Aura was described as the essence that gave life its energy. At its highest point, this energy matches the strength of the soul itself. She overcomes the harsh power that seeks to control and force others into obedience. The aura quickly intensified, growing stronger than ever before. The hero's beastly power and aura surged, growing stronger than before. At last, he manages to obtain the Beast Lord Fist. He proceeds to merge the strength of the Beast Fist with the might of the power causes his abilities to increase even further. Nevertheless, while they are engaged in this activity, the general hides quietly behind the cover of a tree, making sure no one sees him. She observes all that unfolds. The following morning, turned to the atheist with a question. The princess sensed the tension that lingered between Chris Moonlight and realized that he required the support of both individuals to achieve his goal. The princess explains that even though nothing is wrong between them personally, it appeared that the seventh prince harbored a certain problem with his brother. The fifth prince's name was considered forbidden to speak aloud, yet during the times when the hero played as Zephyr, this prince proved to be a particularly challenging adversary. When he attempts to learn more about the situation, Chris Moonlight entered the room and informed the group. They began gathering their belongings in preparation for their departure later that afternoon. The purpose was to give an account of the completed tasks. As the group prepared to depart, the general expressed gratitude for their efforts. He shares his hope that their paths will cross once more in the future. From that point onward, they stayed by each other's side. The siblings set out on their journey toward the demon castle. Without hesitation, the entire group begins their journey toward the demon castle. The process unfolds straightforwardly. Initially, the group heads toward the teleportation circle, allowing them to traverse great distances in an instant. Afterward, they rely on magic to transport themselves straight back to the demon castle. Despite the challenge, the group faced a 3-day journey on foot to reach the closest teleportation circle, all while knowing that resting at inns was completely out of the question. They found themselves once again preparing to sleep outdoors, resigned to another night beneath the stars. Seated upon a stone, carefully inscribes the names of the demon kings. With the aid of a slender stick, he traced the outlines of 3 children in the sand. A sense of unease settled over him as he thought about returning the following day, knowing that the Demon King's castle was currently split into three major groups. The initial faction was led by the second prince, Zephyr, known as the Demon King's fiercest adversary. Meanwhile, the first prince commanded the rival faction. The third one was owned by the fourth princess. The throne was always passed down to the person who showed the greatest skill and achievement, not necessarily to the oldest child. And Zephyr stood out as equals in power, their strength nearly unmatched because they were full-blooded siblings. The formidable abilities they both possessed came from the draconian heritage passed down by their mother, granting them incredible might. Nevertheless, if a single choice must be made from among the group, the firstborn son stands out for his calm and balanced temperament. However, this trait becomes irrelevant, as everything is destined to shift following that pivotal day. The protagonist resolved to get ready for any situation that might arise. To achieve that goal, he must increase his level enough to master the use of. He decided to put his newfound power to use, determined to prove himself worthy among the king's knights. Later, he triggered the unique ability of his king's knight, which resulted in the formation of the Knight Order. As he examined the specifics of this new skill, he is caught off guard when he realizes the ability is more than a typical summoning skill, which he had initially assumed. This discovery leads him to question whether it might actually function like a guild system, given that it offers enhancements, knight training, and summoning features. Because of all these advantages, he starts to think the skill might be overpowered. The thought of how powerful it could be after leveling up fills him with excitement. As he mutters to himself about these possibilities, arrives, having at last tracked down Sutra's whereabouts. He raised his voice at the hero, upset that they were still awake despite needing to get up early the next day. He urges the hero to step back, choosing not to pay attention to what the orc head is saying. The protagonist's eyes sparkled with excitement as he turned to the orc head, expressing his eagerness by proposing an experiment. After considering the proposal, decides to participate in the experiment. The story unfolded from the perspective of the hero. He drops down to one knee, showing respect. Afterward, draws his sword and gently places it against the shoulder of the orc's head. He declared his decision to name as his knight. At that moment, experiences an unusual sensation. He openly expressed that his devotion to the main character appeared to have grown stronger. As predicted, the orc head's level increased to 24. The hero felt a surge of pride as he reflected on what he had achieved. Wonders aloud about the powerful energy coursing through him. Remains silent, then turns the question around, inquiring whether the other orc aspires to be the most powerful orc in existence. The severed orc head remained motionless, as the hero spoke quietly to himself, determined to one day transform into the most powerful orc emperor the Night Saga world had ever known. An individual destined to stand on the same level as the dragons. The following morning arrived. The group eventually reached the closest teleportation circle. Together, they entered the demon castle as a group. The circle glowed with an intense, radiant light. A massive surge of energy radiated from the peak of the teleportation center. Before long, everyone in the group, the character found themselves trapped within a chamber deep inside the demon castle. Glanced at with concern, her expression revealing her worry for his well-being. Reassured her, letting her know that he was all right. At that moment, several women began to shout's name. They showed visible relief upon her arrival, clearly having waited a long time for her to appear. As she approaches, they notice her striking appearance and treat her with admiration and polite words. Upon witnessing the group fawning over the sixth princess, the hero is taken aback, comparing their behavior to that of an enthusiastic fan club. Driven by curiosity, he inquires of the orc leader whether these women serve as aides and followers. Meanwhile, Chris and approach a gathering of people and werewolves, who acknowledge them with courteous greetings. Sensing his own isolation from the cheerful gathering, questions inwardly whether he is the only person standing alone. Two elven women exchanged quiet words between themselves, their attention briefly shifting toward him. Upon noticing the group conversing quietly while glancing his way, he understands their whispers stem from his association with the Demon King's castle. He chooses to put the matter out of his mind. The speaker wonders aloud, too, inquiring whether he feels prepared to start making gradual changes from this point forward.